He's the guy who had been a Unit 731 soldier when he was a young man and killed people.
Paul Johnson, an American director, has studied Unit 731 documents at length and knows its history well.
Unit 731 was a unique organization in the history of the world. What they were trying to do was to simply do nothing short than build the most powerful and most deadly biological weapons program that the world had ever known. Capable person of high status in Japan. He was a medical doctor who was also a pilot and a military commander. He had all of these great talents and skills that sadly, instead of being used for a good purpose, he took his great prodigious skills and took it in the opposite direction, to the dark side, as a force for evil. These weren't human beings who had rights to life, who had rights to freedom from torture and sickness and disease. These were people who he could carry out tests to further his goals, which was to create the world's greatest biological weapons program.
Scott Bennett is a leading counter-terrorism expert and a former US Army analyst. He now investigates crimes against humanity.
The American Indians were seen as a scourge, as a social pariah that needed to be expunged, expelled, and exterminated from much of the eastern seaboard. Poisoning blankets with smallpox, with this virus that caused the eruption of sores and death upon the American Indians. Blankets were distributed to Indians at military installations under the guise of helping them.
Exploding bombs laced with anthrax next to prisoners who were tied to stakes in a field. We have evidence that they gave disease-infected chocolates to children.
There were thousands overall, by one estimate as many as 10,000. Not just the scientists totaled about 1,600 or more, but there were also concentration camp guards from low to medium levels. There were even commandants at concentration camps who in Eastern Europe, Nazis really of all stripes, from scientists to spies who worked for the CIA.
Eric Lichtblau, an American journalist and Pulitzer Prize winner, wrote The Nazis Next Door, a book revealing the harrowing story of how America became a safe haven for thousands of Nazi criminals.
I think a lot of this was really a stain on the United States. It was a shameful period in which we allowed thousands and thousands of Nazi persecutors who we had just defeated. We had just gone to war. We had lost hundreds of thousands of men in battle, and then allowed them in despite their obvious ties to war crimes and persecution. That is a blot in American history.
Cold War. And there was a stream of documents and data by Unit 731 that went to two military bases in the United States, to Fort Dugway in Utah and to Fort Detrick in Maryland, which to this day remains the headquarters for the U.S. Biological Weapons Command.
In the 1930s and 40s and 50s, the American military, government, and medical community experimented on the black population using syphilis and sexually transmitted diseases, infecting them with these diseases in order to develop vaccinations and medicines to immunize them. All of these were used in the prisoner populations, the black populations, and the mentally retarded populations, largely before 1964, which then quickly outlawed outlawed them. From Nagasaki, Hiroshima, Korea, Vietnam, in different areas of the world from the different times of war, the United States is engaged in all sorts of warfare, biological warfare, nuclear warfare. Ultimately, if there was a conflict or a war with Russia, Ukraine would be among the first platforms to initiate hostilities through the lives or the conditions of the Ukraine or the population. It has also been historically eyed by people like Adolf Hitler and the German World War II strategic plans for defeating Russia. Ukraine was rich with oil, and it was always eyed as a natural resource area that could be utilized.